All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I think we've got all of the commission here except for Mr. Neuschwander. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Today is April 5th, 2022 at 5:30. First action item up tonight is the approval of the minutes from March 8th, 2022. Everybody's had a chance to review that. Do we got any questions, changes? Anything from the public? Got a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. First agenda item up is a use on review for a massage therapy business at 101 David Drive.
The applicant is Nicole Myros of Infinite Renewal Massage Therapy, LLC. 101 David Drive is the address. She is requesting to operate an in-home massage therapy business from her home. And basically the business operations are just going to be 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, within normal business hours, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., one person per appointment, up to 4 appointments a day. No additional employees are going to be at this location. So a use on review is needed because it hits one of the triggers, that being customers coming to the home. 200 feet, landowners within 200 feet of the lot property line were notified. No comments or concerns were reported to our office as a result of notification. Signage is posted, and hopefully so. It's been pretty windy lately, but basically after considering all the conditions of what's stated in Title 18, Article 5, Section 2, their staff doesn't foresee any issues with the traffic count, noise, odors, anything like that. There's no other triggers besides there being customers entering the home. So the only thing is that we will request periodic sales tax reporting from the applicant when she gets up and running. So staff recommends approval of the request and recommends setting a public hearing for Monday, May 2nd at 6:30. And the applicant is here if you do have any questions for her.
Hey guys, anything to add to that?
And if you do, there's you can please come up to the microphone if you do have anything to add.
It's pretty straightforward. Any questions from the Planning Commission?
No.
I don't see any concerns with it.
No.
I happen to know the neighbors pretty well too. They're kind of excited about it, so.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll
A
second.
motion and a second. Is there any more discussion from the public? Hearing none. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carries. So we've got a public hearing set for May 2nd.
Yep, we'll schedule that at the next council meeting. So May 2nd here in this room, 6:30. So thank you.
Thanks. That's it.
So you're free to. Thank you.
Next item is a request for an 8-foot versus 6-foot fence for Roxanne Dahm and Samuel Lard at 3025 Trailhead Loop.
So the requesters are asking for a 8-foot fence versus a 6-foot tall fence on the mutual property line between 3025 Trailhead and 3029 Trailhead Loop. So per city ordinance, special permission needs to be granted from the Planning Commission and City Council to approve such a request. So in addition to that, they will be requesting a 5-foot fence within the front setback, which, let me get there. There's the exhibit. That's basically what they're requesting. Is the 5-foot setback. So as you can see, per ordinance, it explicitly calls out fences within the front setback, within the front 25 feet specifically. It limits that to a 4-foot maximum fence height in the front. And within that 25-foot site triangle, that's the dotted line on the corner along Vinacker Canyon Road and Trailhead Loop, that is restricted to 3.5 feet in height. So as part of their plan, and this diagram shows the ordinance being enforced as is. So the red line is 6 foot, what you can have, 4 foot, and then 3.5 feet. So there's 3 different lengths of fence we'd be dealing with. And to keep it consistent, they want to stick with a 5-foot fence around the front perimeter and 8 foot in the rear. So basically, we've dealt with these requests in the past. So in comparison, there's the 8-foot fence that's on, this is the Trailhead subdivision, and previously a 8-foot fence was requested back there. So you can see that comparison. And also going back to the pictures there's a elevation difference between the 2 homes. So that elevation, staff feels like it kind of encompasses that height difference, because eventually as you go south down that subdivision, the houses gradually rise in elevation. So they're at the low point. So what staff determined is that there is no foreseeable issue with the 8-foot fence in the rear setback, but however, there's reasons for the height restrictions in the front, that being the site triangle issues and whatnot. So staff recommends that the applicant do proceed with a variance to the front setback, or the fence in the front setback, to formally request that following the normal variance procedure. And I've got Samuel Laird. I didn't want to butcher it. And Rod Bradley, he is the developer of that subdivision. They are here if you have any questions.
So I hope you guys don't mind me coming with Samuel on this deal. He asked me to. So, I guess, I don't exactly understand what the variance process is, but, I'm sure we can get through that and Laura, but we wanted to get a feel from planning, what their thoughts were on the 5-foot fence around, and if there's a way that, we could take the 5-foot fence all the way around to the 8-foot fence.
That's the main road going through.
Yep.
Where's that stop sign at relative on there?
Well,
There is no stop sign currently.
no,
is there?
but the street sign is I took a picture of it now. We can put it up there, or I took a picture of it this afternoon. But the way it's going to roll out is, the east boundary of Samuel's property, and then there's going to be a bike path, and then the street sign is on the east side of the bike path, if that makes sense. So there's a little more cushion there because of the bike path than just, his corner of his property right next to the road.
Sure.
So there's a little more room to work with as far as the site triangle.
I think that site triangle would play in as well on the bike path. If somebody's coming down that bike path, you've got 8-foot fence, and they're coming down the bike path towards Trailhead Loop, you still got to have that site triangle for that bike path.
Correct,
In my mind.
and that's where, in talking with the homeowners, we've talked about, that being a 5-foot fence. I think that the question is, do we have to go to 3.5, or can we get by with 5? That's the question. And if it would help, like you said, with the bike, the traffic on the bike path, would it help if the 5-foot fence went all the way to the southeast corner? You see where it's red there now? Mm-hmm. But if we had that 5-foot fence go all the way, so it would just be an 8-foot fence between the 2 homes. And then once the fence turned and went north, it would turn to a 5-foot fence all the way around. But I think the decision, or what we'd like to get some feel is, you know, can we do something with the 5-foot fence around the northeast corner?
What's the reason for going 5 foot instead of 4 foot?
You know,
3.5.
Well, I mean, all this front stuff needs to be 4, right? And the site triangle needs to be 3.5.
yeah, that's a homeowner preference. They feel more secure with a 5-foot fence. And there's some reasons for that, some history and, you know, with animals and things like that, that, you know, they say that's their preference.
Is the neighbor to the south, are they good with an 8-foot fence?
Yes.
Are they?
I think that'd be their preference.
They would?
Yeah.
Is there higher? Or are you higher?
What's that?
What are you guys higher, or is the neighbor higher? Okay.
Yeah. So if you're looking at that picture, the neighbor's to the left.
And we want to put the 8-foot fence. We'd like to put the 8-foot fence there for their benefit, not ours. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at that picture, that's all their bedrooms. And to the right of our garage is where our porch is, and we go out there at night, barbecue, and have the light on. So we're doing that for them, not us. Otherwise, we would just keep that 6.
Sure.
But you know, we're to do that. What Rod was saying is that the 5-foot fence around, and I understand, you know, that you guys have things in place to protect people. But the 5-foot fence, if you would ever drive by there, it wouldn't interact with it wouldn't put anybody's lives in danger. Now, there's a few reasons why that Roxanne and I would like to have the 5-foot fence. And one for me is a fear factor. I'm 53 years old in a couple months, and when I was 5 years old, I got attacked by a German Shepherd. And I got a scar here. You could probably see it from here, and my lip right here was almost hanging off. I love dogs. I've had them. They've been friendly. So no matter where you're at, of course, you always have stray dogs. So having a 5-foot fence, they wouldn't be as apt to jump over and attack if there was like a 3.5-foot fence. And also, it would look, we take really good care of our property. So just having curbside appeal would also be nice as well. Now, as in terms of first responders getting there, we're going to have a fence in the front and a fence in the back, so that way if officers ever need to come there because of a robbery or an ambulance or anything, it'd be easy access as well.
My biggest concern is that site triangle.
Yeah.
That's I mean, you know, somebody's fence, to me, as long as they're maintaining it, is kind of, there's some definite liberty there.
Yeah.
I just, you know, without knowing right where that sidewalk is, and if there's a kid, you know, there's going to be a lot of little kid traffic on that, and as they approach that intersection.
If we can just take a minute, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I wish there was some more pictures of the elevation right there. I wish there was more pictures of the elevation from the road to their yard, and
It's pretty flat.
Yeah.
It is. And it's far away from the road as well.
And I don't think we're concerned. I think there's going to be plenty of space between that. But if a little kid, because a lot of them are not going to stop at that. They're going to come
They're gonna be
right
rolling.
down the sidewalk and cross that intersection. And just depending on the height, if it's a little guy, just making sure, I mean, I would hate to approve something and then, you know,
Oh, yeah.
a little kid blows through
property
there.
every night.
Let's just do this.
That's a big concern. It's a big concern for me.
And I get the aesthetic thing, but, you know, safety is probably more of a concern than aesthetics.
Broadcast that so we see it.
So Roxanne is standing there on the left. That's the actual corner of the property. And then I don't know if you can see it.
Sorry.
Oops.
Sorry.
So to the left and real close to the pavement is where the street sign is. So you can see the difference between, you know, from behind Roxanne to the street, and I didn't measure it today, but there's some distance there that'll help with the site triangle some.
Have you thought about just like in that site triangle, just angling the fence there and maybe doing some decorative rock or something on the outside of that you don't have to maintain, and then
Then the site triangle is maintained. The safety aspect is still there.
Yes, we actually mentioned it to Laura, the last time that she was over at the house, that if it would please the city, we would even take it back 1.5 feet all the way around our property, because we already have decorative rock on the inside of our property, the red rock. We would take it in 1.5 feet in all the way around our property to make it a little easier.
So I think we're talking about two different things. If you put the map back up there,
Oh, yeah. Give me a second.
yeah. I'm thinking
so
Follow the dotted
what Bill's saying is your 5-foot fence would run along the dotted line at an angle like that. What Samuel's saying, and another thing that they've talked to Laura about, is if we took the 5-foot fence and moved it in 1.5 feet from the property line, and then put decorative rock like between the sidewalk and the fence,
sure.
you would gain some help in the site triangle. It wouldn't be as much as the 25 foot, but it would be some. And so, just to be clear, we're talking about two different things on that.
My apologies, I didn't understand.
Oh no, that's
Yeah. So those are a couple other options too, if you really want to maintain some of the site triangle, and that's why we're here, is just to discuss these things, to figure out what's going to be palatable or what makes sense for this. I guess another thing we could tee up as a third option is if we did cut it across at the dotted line, could it be, because of the distance with the bike path from the road, could it be less than 25 feet? Because that would save a little bit of the yard too. So if we did go at an angle, and just throwing a number out, 15 feet instead of 25 each work, something like that. So those are some other options that I guess we'd like to tee up. I think, I guess I'm prepping myself for some landscaping, right? Like the bike path goes in, and then you have to shore up the landscaping, or maybe they're supposed to do that or whatever. But I can't imagine the concrete's right to the property line. Or at least, maybe that's the case, but I would assume it's not. Yeah.
Daniel, is that going to be the 10-foot bike path?
8 or 10. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
At least 8.
At least 8.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and I'm not so concerned, with the, like you said, if we knew where the bike path was and there was still that site triangle from any sort of pedestrian entering into site, wherever that might be, that would be acceptable.
That might be a good point, Bill. Like, we're not in a big hurry. I'm not say we, but our discussions have been, at some point they want to finish their home and be done. They'd probably like to get the 8-foot piece going east and west in there, but if it made more sense to wait to see what it actually looked like with the bike path and come up with something that makes sense, I think my guess is they'd probably wait.
And are you doing a privacy fence? Was the plan for that 5 foot as well?
Actually, we got a permit for a 6 foot from Laura, but then we went back to get an 8, and it just kind of changed everything. But yes, to answer your question, that in between the houses was for the privacy.
Okay.
That's 6. But Roxanne and I decided to change it to 8 to give our neighbors more privacy, and they're very happy about it.
And what about that area in that 25 foot? Is that going to be the same type of fence, or is it going to turn to chain link or
No, it's
anything?
going to be
Okay.
all wood.
Okay.
And going down to 5.
Okay.
And, depending on what the council lets us, approves us, if we have to move back a little, we'll get it get it nice and decorated to have the curbside appeal as well.
So,
We don't have to decide tonight on the 5 foot, do we?
We're going to decide on
I
the
mean,
8.
so we get a chance to go actually out there and look ourselves, the questions that they brought up tonight.
Well, it was,
I thought are we approving,
well, the 8-foot fence is, sorry. So they came to request for the 6 to 8 foot, which is based on staff's interpretation of the ordinance, is a simpler request to consider. Because it's pretty black and white in the ordinance for anything within the front setback, which you're restricted to that 4 foot and then the 3.5. So you'd have to do a hard request for anything the front setback. And with changes coming with Title II, that's soon to change, where if you have anything that's beyond the scope of what, like for instance, they would need to do a formal variance request for their 8-foot fence with Title II changes coming up. So I think they wanted to get that kind of determined, but then there was staff's recommendation that you will need to consider a variance for that front setback because that's more concerning. And it explicitly states anything opaque in nature. So if it was like a chain link fence or, that's something you can see through. So that would have been a little bit different. But here we're looking at, privacy fence, wood fencing materials throughout. So something you can't see through.
I guess
go ahead.
question I have is, could we possibly get some staking where that bike path is going to be so that before they come back again that we can actually go physically look at it and see kind of where it lays in relationship to the road?
I think, because elevation will be a key to it and on and on. So, I think one scenario is, could we, get the blessing for the 8-foot fence running east and west on the south end of the property. And then, we just wait for the bike path to be in there. And then we come back when people get a chance to look at it and we come up with the best option of what makes sense there.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
You guys good with that?
Yes.
All right.
Well, all in all, I'm for the 8 foot
Yeah.
in the rear on the south side of the house.
so are we looking to just do the one then? Is that
Yes.
just the 8 foot
And just the section in between the houses, not on the.
variance running
Yeah, so-
east and west?
So that big building in the middle of the street's not there anymore. Well, that little stub of going to the garage, that'll be a gate. So from the corner of the garage, we'll go south with a gate, and then we'll just go east to the corner pin with an 8-foot fence, if you guys agree with that. And we'll just stop there because that whole north-south piece on the east side, we'll just wait to see what makes sense there when we decide on the rest of it, if that works.
Yes.
I think sounds good.
Okay. If you guys are good with that. So,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the 8 foot instead of 6 foot on the south property line.
Second.
We got a first by Aaron and a second by David. Any other discussion from the public? Any from commission? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no. Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
thanks, guys.
So
I told you not to worry about it. We have new signs.
I didn't want you to drive by and think we took it off.
Oh, we'll just figure it out later. No, yeah, that's fine. We'll see.
Stuff.
I'll follow up with it.
Next item up is the preliminary plat of Lot 6A revised, 6R, and Lot 6C revised of Wilkerson Estates.
The applicant is Angela Wilkerson of 1621 Hope Street. Zoning is medium density residential. So her request is to readjust the lot lines as shown on the plat prepared by Baseline Surveying for a garage addition to the home. So in order to meet setbacks, that lot line and to keep the lots separate, the lot line adjustment is necessary. And here's the current conditions of the home. It's all in all, it's a little over 5 acres between the two lots. So staff doesn't see any issue with the request, and recommendation to approve for final plat approval. And Shannon is here from Baseline Surveying if you have any questions.
So we just basically got a lot line adjustment to accommodate a larger building space
Yep.
with the existing home.
For a future addition, yeah, the garage. So it's planned out so that garage does have an 8-foot setback from the new property line. So
And with this area, there's no need to do anything with sidewalk and that since it's non-existing, correct?
Yeah, so the 7th Street is unimproved, and then we have this calculator, or it's an analysis we prepared a couple years ago for when street improvements and sidewalk, curb, and gutter are needed. And I believe Hope Street does have it, curb, just not sidewalk, but it's scored low as for, urgency to make those changes. So staff did not feel that was necessary at this time.
Any further questions from the commission? Anything from the public? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
We got a motion to approve the plat as presented, and this is just a prelim, or is this a prelim and final?
just prelim. Yes.
Second that.
We got a second? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. So the next item, we've got plat of lots 1H, 1R, 1H2, 1H3, 1H4, and 1H5 of Hurley subdivision and dedicated right-of-way to Pine Glen Drive. And this is a final plat, correct?
Yes. So the applicants are Kim O'Connor and Brink Myers. They are the owners of the north lot up there. So basically this has been presented several times to Planning Commission, once in 2019 and once in 2020. So based on the amount of subdivision going on here, 3 additional lots out of lot 1H, what is shown as lot 1, it's currently described as lot 1HRR, which is that larger lot to the south. So basically it was determined that Pine Glen Drive needed some improvements, new street surface, new water improvements and whatnot. So the developer's working with the city on a project right now. So to file the final plat, we need a street bond, and that's been paid by the developer. So we can proceed with the final plat so the project can go out to bid. And major changes is a little striped area for cul-de-sac right-of-way. So it'll be since it's a dead-end road, it'll be a cul-de-sac and a slight lot line adjustment on that brand-new house that's on Pine Glen Drive and Dolan Creek Road. So staff recommends approval of the final plat so the work can continue on Pine Glen Drive. And once again, we have Shannon here with Baseline Surveying.
So is there going to be a cul-de-sac there or just not on this one?
Well, it's going to be a partial of that turnaround that's shown on the plat. That's actually dedicated as public right of way
the-
for that. Yep.
Turning radius for it,
Yep.
okay. Any questions?
I guess I like to point out, and a lot H5, 1H-5, that home actually accesses from Pipestone Drive through Palisades. So it would have the option to do either or, but just to make that point that lot 5, the cul-de-sac stops right there in between 4 and 5, but the 5's main or entrance that they use currently is from Pipestone Drive. So.
Well, and there's additional properties that access up that road anyway, isn't there?
Yep, yeah.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Anything from the public?
Just stating that where that cul-de-sac is, it essentially gets where garbage services and everything can turn around in there. Everybody's driveway does meet up with it. So it just pretty much the reason we had to put that in there is for garbage trucks and plows and everything to turn around in there. So.
And there's plenty of space. It's big enough to.
Yep. Yeah. We met up with Rick and he was all good with everything what we planned out. Yep.
Well, and you hate to get too exaggerated with it, in my opinion, when you don't know what the future is going to be down that road.
Exactly. We don't know what it could possibly hold. So.
Any other comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
We got a motion by Preston,
I'll second.
and a second by Aaron. All in favor, say yes.
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 No, same sign. And I'm going to abstain from this one, Laura. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And this will be presented to the next city council meeting on April 18th. So the next agenda items, this was the time scheduled for consideration for a zoning amendment from agriculture to plan unit development from Pivot Development Group. Staff recommended to table this request due to a few missing processes. So we're going to, that being annexation, we'll wait to do this so we're everything's properly filed with the county and presented to city council. So, and then the next agenda item after that was to set the TIF number 22 boundary for Harvest Meadows Estates and Valley View subdivision. And once again, staff would recommend you table this as well until those processes are formally completed. So.
Do we need a motion for that?
2 motions, I guess. Table.
So we need a motion just to table the zoning change for that.
And to set the TIF boundary,
We need the plat, or not the plat, but the legal description was the deal with the county.
Yeah,
So until we get that right, we can't establish the TIF boundaries.
exactly. You can't put the cart before the horse, so to speak.
So do I have a motion for item number 1 there to table the zoning amendment?
I'll motion to table.
Motion by Preston,
I'll second it.
second by Dustin. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, no. I'm going to abstain from this one too. And then the last one to set the TIF. Do we have a motion to table that item?
I'll make a motion to table the item for establishing the TIF district.
I'll second.
We got a motion by Aaron and a second by David. All in favor, yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. And I'll abstain from that.
And finally, staff has a few items up for annual renewal for use and review. So the first one is Tiffany Smith of Pause on Main and Angie Olson of Elite Transportation. Their annual review is expiring April 18th, I believe, for the businesses within a medium-density residential zone at 1547 Main Street. No changes are reported. No complaints had been received by staff, and sales tax information has been submitted to finance. So staff will go ahead and renew that for another year. King of the Mountain, King Cavalier II, he's using, there's a secondary use for residents at his business in the industrial park. No changes, no complaints, so continue on for another year. And Justin Bond with Sturgis Guns. This is an in-home FFL for gun cleaning and maintenance at 1616 Elk Court. So no changes, no complaints issued, but however, sales tax has not been reported. But there's no, oh, and Justin is here if to address the commission. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Bond.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I haven't done any sales tax because no earnings were created.
Okay.
And that was submitted, I think, earlier today. But I'm just here verbally to say, yeah,
Sure.
no funds earned.
You bet.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, and I'd just like to comment too, Smith's building looks great. What an addition to that corner. I mean.
And tonight we're introducing our new conference line. So for the public comment, we will open it up for any public comment, unless there's any here.
So this is where they would type something in and ask a question, or is it just
They'd be on
comments,
conference
or?
call.
Oh.
Or they're on we're on the phone right now. If they had called in, they would ask any questions. But I guess not. And if
All right. Items for tonight? Anything by the public? Hearing none, thanks everybody for coming. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by David.
I'll second.
Second by Preston. We are adjourned. Thank you.
So, you know, this situation, obviously they're trying to speed up the process.